Welcome to Wayne County Connection. I'm your host, Michael Sweigart. Thanks for joining me for another great episode where we promote Wayne County as a great place to work, live, and play. It's always a pleasure to connect with you and with our guests that we'll be bringing on in just a moment and talk about the ways that Wayne County is doing things well to promote this area as a great place to work, live, and play. And we encourage you to do your part and get connected as well. And a great place to start for that is our website at waynenet.org/cc. There you can find more information about today's guests, links on how to get connected and get involved. You can also find information about previous programs and ways that you can get connected with those guests and agencies, and find information about the on-demand and streaming versions of this program that you can share with people who may not have access on their cable television provider. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for doing your part to get connected as well. Also check out the waynenet.org calendar where you can promote and post events and also find out about other things that are going on in and around Wayne County. We encourage you to get out. It's summertime and there's a lot going on throughout Wayne County. Festivals in every community and lots of agencies are doing the same thing. Speaking of festivals, our guest today and our focus is the Richmond Shakespeare Festival, and we are pleased to have with us today Ray Ontko, who's the chairman of the board of the Richmond Shakespeare Festival, and Patrick Flick, who is the producing artistic director. Thanks, gentlemen, for joining us today. How are you doing?
Great, glad to be
here. Patrick has the privilege of, since we're still Zooming, being outdoors today. He's also warned us earlier that he's been dive bombed by a couple of cicadas, so hopefully he will survive the taping of the show today. But I'd like to start the program today, as I frequently do, with an introduction. Ray is a founding member of the Richmond Shakespeare Festival. And so, Ray, I'd like to ask you to tell our viewers a little bit more about yourself and how you got involved in Wayne County and specifically the Shakespeare Festival.
I have been involved with community theater here in Richmond at the Richmond Civic Theater for a number of years. And the genesis of the Richmond Shakespeare Festival, I would say, is that a young man named Joshua Robinson grew up here in Richmond and spent a lot of time at the theater, went away to graduate school, and came back and wanted to do something nice for the Civic Theater. And what he had in mind and what he did was put on a production of The Tempest. And one of the things we all learned from that, and it was a benefit for the Studio 10 program at Richmond Civic. What we learned from that was that that it was possible to do Shakespeare in an exciting format, and that there was an appetite for that within the Richmond community for the audience. The audience was interested. We all had such a good time being involved with that in various ways, and I wanted to see that continue. And that was really the beginning of the Shakespeare Festival. So from that, we proceeded over the next couple of years to continue to work together to do productions. The first year at the Star Jeanette building down in the Whitewater Gorge Park. And we did 2 productions that year, and then 2 more productions the next year while the Star Jeanette building was being renovated. We did 2 productions at Earlham College. And the following year, we hired Patrick to help provide professional direction and leadership for us, in addition to the work that we had been doing previously. We've done, I think, 4 seasons since then, and until the pandemic. And so anyway, that's how we got started. And we've we expanded our format from a 2-weekend to a 3-weekend format after a couple of years, and typically attract between 800 and 1,000 people to the festival each year.
Sounds like a great background, and we'll get into some more details about that in a few minutes. A lot of questions came up in my mind about the origins and the foundations of the Shakespeare Festival. But before we get too far into the program, we want to introduce Patrick Flick, the producing artistic director. And we've heard a little bit about you, but Patrick, although some people who have been involved with the festival may know you well, our larger community probably is not very familiar with you. And so if you could tell us a little bit about yourself and your connections with Wayne County.
Well, I grew up not far from Wayne County over in the Hamilton, Fairfield, Ohio area, and I'm currently a resident of Oxford. So it's only about 30 minutes over to Wayne County. I've visited Indiana my whole life, especially this part of the country. As a matter of fact, my folks, we had a little place on the Ohio River in Lawrenceburg and Aurora when I was growing up. So I was, they called us river rats, us kids back then. And I ended up going to Miami University to study, well, I was going to study art at first, and then I ended up being roped into the theater department and switched my major over to theater. And pretty much after I graduated, earned my living as as an actor all over the country for many years. And then eventually I had moved out to San Francisco. I lived out there for about 10 years. And I started working in television, actually, and worked in television for about 4 years for a company called ZDTV. And at that point, I became a producer in television, and which led me to kind of scale back acting at that time a little bit. And and even after I left, after I left ZDTV and Tech TV, I started trying to direct more, and I moved down to Orlando and worked at the Orlando Shakespeare Theater for about 9 years, and directed quite a few shows. I directed their first ever musicals. I directed some Shakespeare, of course, and then I was also the associate artistic director there and director of new play development. And so I spent a lot of time working with new plays in Orlando. After it was time to leave Orlando, I decided to finish a master's degree in an MFA in theater from the University of Idaho, and ended up being the executive director of an organization called the Shakespeare Theater Association, which is a global, international organization that's main focus is to produce an annual conference. And we have about 125 members from all over the world. Richmond Shakespeare Festival is a member of the Shakespeare Theater Association, and including like the Globe in London, Stratford up in Canada, Oregon Shakespeare, Utah Shakespeare, and from some of the largest Shakespeare theaters in the world to some of the smallest. And that job really was only a part-time position, and still is, which afforded me the opportunity when it came up, when Ray approached me talked to me about perhaps working with Richmond Shakespeare Festival in, I think it was 2016. I said, sure, I'm in the area and I love it around here, and it sounds like an exciting opportunity.
So what a fantastic story, and what a great background to really bring to this area some almost international experience, but definitely national experience in Shakespeare productions to bring to Wayne County. Thank you for sharing that with us. We're grateful to have you as part of the organization. Ray, a little bit more about the background of the Shakespeare Festival. Obviously, there was some early success that allowed you to expand so much to hire someone of Patrick's caliber. But the foundation really started with some people in Wayne County or from Wayne County who had a love of theater and some talent and ability to bring the classic to life. I was involved, I got the privilege to be involved in a Shakespeare production at Richmond Civic Theater Stage, and it was an entertaining and a fun time, and a lot of people in the area, when I told them that I was going to be involved with that, said Shakespeare, and other people were like, Shakespeare. So there's kind of a preconceived notion of what Shakespeare is going to be about. But there is an interest in the area. Can you tell us a little bit more about the volunteers that decided to throw their effort and talent into the starting of the Shakespeare Festival in Wayne County?
Sure. So the very first year, all of the acting talent was volunteer. We hired some professional designers to help us out and directors. And we got generous support from the City of Richmond in the forms of the Parks Department, giving us access to the building, and the Star Jeanette building, which was a wonderful place to turn into a theater space. At that time, there were no restrooms, so we had to rent porta potties, and we tried some things that we decided not to try again in the future. We tried to create blackout conditions by putting up curtains all around the Star Jeanette building, and turns out that curtains and wind coming through don't mix well together, and the blowing of rain onto fabric created some additional difficulties. But we learned a lot that first year, and did, I think, a very good job with doing something new and exciting. I'm especially proud that we helped activate, these were all volunteers from the community, helped activate that space. And today it gets used for weddings and dances and other civic gatherings of one kind or another, the farmers markets there in the wintertime. And it's our home during non-pandemic summers. So we feel very proud of being able to make the Star Jeanette building a real part of the fabric of our community.
So you mentioned some of the connections there, the city with the Parks Department, the Star Jeanette Foundation, and so forth. We know that despite your best efforts that you can't do it alone, and you are the chairman of the board, but there are other agencies and organizations in the area that are involved. If you'd like to mention a few of those, because we always like to make the connection here at Wayne County Connection.
So two that I will lift up right away are Earlham College, who has been very helpful for us in providing rehearsal space and residential space and some additional facility use. To make it possible for us to bring guest artists into a rehearsal and production mode that wouldn't have been possible otherwise. So they've been a consistent part since, I would say, our second season especially. We also receive financial support from the Wayne County Foundation every year, and a huge part of that is the annual challenge match, in which the Wayne County Foundation and its donors provide a matching incentive for donations from supporters of the Richmond Shakespeare Festival, and many other organizations in the community, including all the major arts organizations. So that has been a huge part of our success, and it's been really helpful to us to improve our processes and procedures around development fundraising through the work that they do to both educate and incentivize best practice.
Ray, you just mentioned that Earlham has provided some space for you and for visiting artists and directors to be involved. And Patrick, we know that you, from your earlier conversation, got involved after the second production, or after the second year, so that we were able to elevate the Richmond Shakespeare Festival to the next level. Tell us a little bit about what's gone on with the Shakespeare Festival, some of the productions that have gone on, and how your involvement has really taken it from a local talent pool to a national talent pool to bring some quality arts programming to Richmond and Wayne County.
Well, the goal of the Richmond Shakespeare Festival is to create a professional summer theater of the highest quality that we possibly can. And so with that in mind, when we first started talking, one of the first things that I wanted to do was to build an Elizabethan three-quarter thrust stage, which we could then reassemble every year in the Star Jeanette building. And we've done that, and we still have it over in storage right now. But yeah, I do have a lot of connections nationally to different talent, different types of talent. And so one of the other things that I wanted to do when we first began was to make our theater a member of Actors Equity Association, which means that we're a producer that brings in actors that not all of our actors by any means are Actors Equity Union members, but every year at least one or two are. And we supplement that with the fantastic local talent that we had around here. I would be remiss if I didn't mention Brian Gregg and Erica Pearson, who have been in every season that I have produced. And I just love working with them and a lot of the other local talent as well. We bring people in. We brought people in from as far as New York State, Utah, Nevada, California. We brought in students also are a very big part of what we do. We have an intern program. And because we are a producing theater that is a part of Actors Equity Association, the students and or anybody who is a part of the company that wishes to become a member of Actors Equity can join what they call the Equity Membership Candidacy Program. And every year, for every production they do with in a show that has an equity actor or stage manager in it, they accrue a certain number of points, and that's how a lot of people get their union card. So, with the goal of becoming a destination theater, meaning we want people to come from all over the world, and they already do, to come to Richmond to experience our theater and to experience the offer. That's part of our goal. Being located near a major highway is a part of that as well, and part of our plans. I don't know, Ray, how many, I can't remember, but I think we did a survey, and we have millions of people within not a very long drive of Richmond, and we're hoping to be able to tap into that.
Yeah, one of the things that Patrick mentioned that I wanted to just lift up is the being able to draw talent from so many good schools that are in the region. There are no less than 12 universities and colleges within, I think, 150 miles of here that have theater, film, and television oriented, and dance in some cases. Oriented artistic programs available, and we're a pathway for them to become trained in classical theater by working directly with experienced directors and designers as part of that, and that it's also an opportunity for local volunteers who have professional aspirations to dip their toes in the water of a professional theater production without, for example, pulling up roots, moving to Chicago or New York or LA and just seeing how it turns out. So no, I always encourage local talent who have professional aspirations to give us a try, come to audition, practice auditions, get involved with the show, and we're always delighted to have people who are committed to working in a professional environment.
One of the Go ahead, Patrick.
Sure. We also, we do auditions. We do a lot of audition outreach. We audition in Richmond. We audition, and we all have started auditioning in Cincinnati. In Indianapolis as well, and we are hoping to expand into Cincinnati. All of those regions have great talent pools, and I'd like to also say that I just love working with the college students that we're able to draw in. We've used students from Earlham. We've used students from Miami University over in Oxford. We have used students from IU. We've used students from Ball State in Muncie, from the College Conservatory of Music in Cincinnati, which is a part of UC. That, to me, is, the older I get, the more satisfying it is to me to try to pass things along to young people. And we have an excellent opportunity to do that with the Richmond Shakespeare Festival in Richmond.
One of the things about Wayne County and Richmond in particular is there are a lot of people who sometimes think that we're in the middle of nowhere, but the truth is we're in the middle of everywhere, and it's a great central location to get some people to come to the area that may not have had a chance to interact. You know, it's very easy to get insulated in the larger metros, but it's also great to have that cross connection that's available here in Wayne County with the Richmond Shakespeare Festival in particular, and we really appreciate your efforts. So let's talk about what's happening this year. We are airing this program will be airing mostly through June and July, but we know we have some great events coming up in July and August with Richmond Shakespeare Festival, and we really want to get that information out to our viewers. So whichever one of you wants to take the lead on that, what's going on?
I could take the lead on that if you'd like, and Ray, chime in anytime you want. On July 29th, we're bringing in an organization called the Brown Box Theater Company, and they're going to be presenting a full-scale production of Much Ado About Nothing. That production will be in the Star Jeanette building at 8 p.m. that evening, and it will be absolutely free this time. They are actually I believe they're out of Maryland, but they have their company members have a lot of connections to Indianapolis. So they decided that they would just base themselves in Indianapolis this summer and put the word out that they were available for tours. And there you have it. So we decided to bring them in. In August, we're bringing in the Cincinnati Shakespeare Company's touring production of Macbeth, and that's August 20th. I believe that's at 7 p.m., and that's also free. And that will be at Jack Alstro Plaza downtown. The reason that we're not producing this summer was pandemic uncertainties. We just were not sure if we would be able to do it. And being a member of of Actors Equity, a producer that works with Actors Equity, they have some pretty strict rules for how productions can happen. And you know, at the time when we had to make our decision back in, I think it was March, we just didn't know enough about what this summer was going to be like to be able to do it. So we decided to just do some presenting, because these companies that we're bringing in, you know, they had been socially distancing. They had been living together as companies. And so they all, you know, were, you know, if one of them had COVID, they were all going to get COVID or not, you know. And so we felt pretty safe making that decision. So Ray, do you have anything you want to add to that?
No, I think that's a perfect explanation of how we got to where we are. In the past, we've always brought in at least one free Shakespeare production, I would say for the last 4 or 5 years. During 2019, we brought in the Cincinnati Shakespeare Company to do, I believe, Midsummer Night's Dream. Mm-hmm. And a number of people told us that this was the only live theater they saw all year, or the only Shakespeare that they've seen all year. And so that was the genesis of the idea of maybe we can do a little more presenting this year given the pandemic. So we were grateful for that.
And when we do that presenting, it actually kind of spreads the word about Richmond Shakespeare Festival itself as well. Because all of those companies will be advertising where they will be performing. And so, you know, they'll say, we're going to be in Richmond Shakespeare in Richmond, Indiana on such and such a date. And that will be on their website. That will be in their marketing materials. And it's sort of, you know, it's helping us to spread the word. I'm a great believer in making connections with other arts organizations. And I really think that actually our connection with the Shakespeare Theater Association has really also enabled us to get to know these other companies in our region as well and work with them.
Michael, you mentioned earlier that being in the middle of nowhere or being in the middle of everywhere. One thing I can say, and this was very apparent to us early on when we were thinking about creating the Shakespeare Festival, is that if you look around now North America at where other successful Shakespeare companies are operating, the largest ones are operating in very small areas that are off the beaten track. So Stratford Festival is probably 50 miles away from a major highway in a town not unlike Richmond. The same is true for the Oregon Festival, which is located in Ashland, Oregon, which is, again, not too far from the highway, but it's a small town, and people go there every year for amazing theater. Same thing is true with Utah Shakespeare and so forth. So, so we're in a great place to be able to do this, and one of my hopes is that we'll continue to become a destination theater for theater goers, bringing more people to our community.
Well, we here at Wayne County Connection, of course, wish you great success in your future. And I personally like the idea of not only getting to see professional Shakespeare in our community, but also the opportunity for our local talent to have a chance to get involved and strut their stuff and also improve their game, as it were, by being involved with these professionals, and an opportunity to, as you mentioned, get their toes wet without having to completely uproot and go to a different place to see if it works out. This is it has the best of all the worlds, I think, here. And with Patrick's involvement, we have a talented producing director that will help to continue to elevate the Richmond Shakespeare Festival in the future. It's at least what it looks like from my chair.
Well, and the other thing is, too, that the opportunities that we present to the community are not just in the area of performance, but, they're also in the area of technical theater, of design. Eric Barker designed our original set. Some of you might remember him from the time he was working at Earlham College. So, and there are volunteer opportunities for every show, and we always could use extra help at strike. Who couldn't? Who doesn't?
Right. Well, gentlemen, we are at the end of our program, and I want to thank you both so much for coming today to talk with our viewers about the Richmond Shakespeare Festival. Good luck this summer, and we look forward to seeing you in and around Richmond as we see the Richmond Shakespeare Festival with its productions in July and August.
Thank you for this opportunity to be here.
Thanks. Ray Ontko, the chairman of the board, and Patrick Flick, the producing director, the artistic director. Thank you, gentlemen, so much. And viewers, thank you for watching. Find out more about today's festival, today's program at waynet.org/cc or richmondshakes.org. I'm Michael Sweigart, your host, on behalf of our producers and directors. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next month.